First off, thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in to the Public Works Podcast. It means a lot. I'm here just trying to help everybody tell their story in the space. Also, I am looking for more interviewees. So if you are that person, or if you know somebody who needs to tell their story just so a youngster can hear it and be attracted to the industry, please reach out to me. Click the link below and we'll get you set up for an interview. Again, if you want to be on the Public Works Podcast, or if you know somebody that needs to be on the Public Works Podcast, tag them in the comments below. Last but not least, if you're trying to figure out what Vitendo Training Solution is, I'll explain it to you in the most simplified way. If you've ever been on YouTube and watched a video on how to operate a piece of equipment that you own, or how to fix a piece of equipment that you own, that is what we come out and do for your city or for your department. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Looking forward to talking to you soon. Now enjoy the show. Thank you.
Welcome. This is the Public Works Podcast. My name is Joseph Blackman. Today, I got a real treat for you. His name is Trino Pedraza. Did I say that right? And
yes,
he is the director of Public Works and Utilities for the city of Galveston in beautiful Texas. Trino, say what's up to everybody.
Hey, what's up, everybody? How y'all doing?
All right, so it's Friday. I see you got a T-shirt on, man. It looks like you're winding up a good week. So let's kind of go into what the director actually does for the city of Galveston. So give us a random Tuesday, what it looks like for you.
Oh, so in our area, Public Works group is different at every city, every utility. In our area, the Public Works and Utilities is comprised of water, wastewater treatment and production, water, wastewater distribution and collection, metering, streets, traffic, drainage, quite a bit. Large group. We have about 200 people, 210 people in our group. And then really the question about what goes on a Tuesday is going to vary based on what today's weather is, right? Under normal circumstances, people are out there doing maintenance projects, doing milling and overlaying, fixing pipes, fixing drainage, fixing lights, whatever it is. After a storm, after a rain event like one that we had happen last night, which is why I'm wearing a t-shirt, then everybody's in like a storm recovery mode, trying to lower the drainage line to get things back in operation condition and so on.
Dude, it sounds like you're over a lot, man. It sounds like a big task you got going on. So let's talk about how you got into the position. So it was young Trino. Were you aiming to be the director at 15 years old? And then tell us what your trajectory were, how it came from high school.
Yeah, no, I have no idea how I got into this business. It's just weird because I'll tell you, graduated high school, didn't really have a plan. So I joined the military, got out of the military. Once I got out of the military, I went to college, and I actually went to college for electronic engineering. And that's what I began doing. I got recruited with Intel out of Arizona, right out of college, moved to Chandler, Arizona, and began my work in the semiconductor industry. And that's where I was going. And that's right in line with what I went to school for. I'm all big in technology. So then after 9/11 happened, the semiconductor industry all started having all these shutdowns. Motorola, Intel, AMD, they're all shutting down. And so they're laying off by the thousands. And so I'm from San Antonio, Texas, not from Arizona, living in Arizona. And at that point, I got nervous. The industry was looking for people to voluntarily separate. And if you did, they would offer like a nice package to get you back on your feet. And so I just took that package, came back home, and I became a teacher. And so I was teaching at the college level. I was teaching at the high school level. I taught engineering practices to high school students, especially at an at-risk high school, which was challenging and also just really uplifting. And so that became my new career. That's something I really fell in love with. And then the school that I was at, like a low to moderate income type school, they lost the funding. And so they ended up having to cut some of the electives. And I was teaching an elective. And so then I lost my job. And so I started looking, and I landed an opportunity with San Antonio Water Systems and the wastewater plant. And I needed the money, had bills to pay, babies to feed. And so I got into that field, and then it just connected. And one thing led to another. And the next thing you know, I'm a Public Works and Utilities director. I don't know why I'm here. It just worked out.
You said something in there I want to kind of park on and kind of commend you on, the at-risk teacher. Growing up, we all know the guys who need a little extra loving to get to where they need to be in life. And it looks like you took that on to being on the teaching side of it. So how is that like, did you attain when you're teaching the at-risk students that help you do what you do today?
Hey, so I think for me, especially in my current industry and in the current region that I work, it ended up being like a breakthrough tool for me. Because when I first picked up my job as a high school teacher and I was teaching at-risk school, I literally would text my wife 15 to 20 times a day saying, I hate my job. And I really did. And the children were like just beating me down and defeating me left and right. And I didn't want to be there. But somewhere along the way, somehow, and I'm not even sure how it happened, I connected with a few students and I had some breakthrough moments in realizing how I needed to communicate, how I needed to like make them believe in themselves. And I think really what happened is once they learned that I really did care about them, they started caring back. And then the word spread. And then I went from this guy texting my wife 20 times a day that I hate my job to thinking that's my new career, getting involved in everything in their lives. I was Mr. P. And so that was really cool. So now coming over here into our industry, many of those students are our employees, right? And what it did was it taught me how to talk with different people, different races, different ages, different walks of life as just a normal person. And that's how I engage with people here. I will speak with you the same way I will speak with the city manager, the same way I will speak with somebody in between. And I allow that communication back my way. And it makes a huge difference.
I love it. I love it. So let's talk about what Galveston has going on right now. You got this AMI project. Can you tell us what that is and what it entails?
Oh, man. So this is a wonderful project. AMI is Advanced Metering Infrastructure. And as part of this project, our city management, in conjunction with our city council, worked hard and they were able to obtain a grant. And so this whole project is a grant-funded project, 100%. And then so because we had the grant, and then because of the location of where we're at, which is an island in South Texas, right, where we're islands separated from the continent, we get hit with every kind of weather event, right? And it all causes some sort of impact that we need to address. And so with the AMI project and the grant, a big chunk of it was just changing all the meters out and bringing up a new network, but it's a new smart system network, right? And because we had the grant, we were able to go beyond just doing a typical meter change out. Like we really went for the true integration of everything. So we installed meters that have remote connect, disconnect capabilities where we're able to turn on and turn off a meter from a computer if we need to. We have pressure monitoring throughout the system, temperature. We actually installed water quality devices. And this is the cool thing, because I think that we're the first in Texas to do this. And I think we're the first to do it integrated to our AMI system, our metering system. And so we installed water quality devices in the actual distribution system that monitor the chemistry of a water, from the color, the clarity, the residual of the disinfection products that are in there. And ideally what it was meant to do was let us see the quality of our water going to our customers. And then what that would do is, you get a lot of customer complaints, they have smelly water, discolored water. What that would do for us is we would see it. We will see it, right? And then we will react based on our data, hopefully before they ever call us, right? And that'll let us really learn our system, provide a better service, better quality, let us get more data analytics on our system, and then let us grow from there. And we just got these devices installed yesterday and connected yesterday. So now the learning begins.
Totally. So answer this for me. Like, we're talking public works, and there's a lot of guys I've talked to that they're not, I wouldn't say scared of innovation, but when they hear of some new product or new service out there, they're skeptical. They got to ask, who else has it in this state? And I could tell you just said, you know what, it makes sense. Let's get it done. Let's implement it and see what happens. So what gave you that progressiveness and that thinking of, let's try it out and see if we can make our job more efficient?
Okay, so a couple things. Like one, I think the fact that I'm naturally a teacher, I don't mind taking people through anything that they're nervous with or that they don't understand. That's a non-issue. I think too, the fact that my degrees in electronic engineering already makes me a tech nerd, a techie. And then so now I'm a techie and then I'm a water nerd at the same time. So you just put those together. So I'm not afraid of technology. Now, if I can't see something, if I can't visualize it, then I might not want to be the person doing the leading edge stuff. I might want to look at who else is doing it. Is it tried? Is it true? And then there's some things that as you're seeing the technology and you're imagining your scenario, if I can imagine it, we're going for it. I'll be the beta tester. We'll go for it. But that's really the key for me. I got to be able to see it. And once I see it, I'm locked on.
Sure, sure. And another thing about public works is we got all this infrastructure is getting old, and a lot of people like the new and the cool and installing this with ribbon cuttings and stuff. But let's talk about maintenance. So you got
Yeah.
this maintenance program going on down there, and I want you to let you talk more about it. How much money you're saving the community?
Yeah. Okay. So I've only been with the city of Galveston since February of 2020. And after I started with Galveston and I started to learn our system, shortly after we learned that one of our plants, one of our sewer sheds was over capacity beyond what we're allowed to be with state regulations and federal regulations. And nowadays there's no joke behind that. The EPA will come down on you quick, fast, in a hurry. And then in our area, the state regulators, the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, and they're no joke either, right? And so we realized that we were over capacity at a plant. And I think really the fact that COVID started around that same time that I recognized it might have bought us some time, right? As far as like the regulators coming down on us, but we realized it. And so what really had to happen was we should have already been under plant design and we should have already been under construction for a new plant. It was scary. We were having a lot of talks, but what we were realizing is with high tide and with rain, this plant of ours was spiking at 200% its capacity, and it was happening frequently. And we knew right away, like, the problem isn't the plant and the problem isn't growth, right? We have issues in the collection system, inflow and infiltration issues. And really, if we build a brand new plant, a $20 million plant, which we were getting ready to do, all we're doing is creating a bigger bucket. And then so that doesn't solve the problem, it just gives you more room. So we went ahead and we said, we asked for permission to give a go at trying to fix it. And we were supported by our city management and our city council. And we got to work and we used a whole bunch of different technologies to restore and renew manholes from different mortars, different liners, fiberglass liners. We switched our cast iron lids to composite super cover lids because in the area, we were having a lot of ponding occurring when there would be rain or floods or anything. And so the typical cast iron manhole has 4 to 6 holes in it, like vent holes, and all the water is just going in. And if you're in the whole area that's underwater, well, you're just draining the Gulf into our plant. And so we started switching that out. We started to do a lot of like smoke testing, televising. We were using acoustics to determine the level of blockage of lines. And then from there, we were televising and coding and coming up with a game plan to fix things. We began using cured in place pipe bursting, this little device called a Q's lock, which is like a stainless steel clamp that opens up inside a sewer pipe, and it's structural and it lets you fix something without digging. We started changing up the clean outs on the service side. We started fixing them and we started putting like different bolt-on covers so that they would be sturdy. And what we began to see was that our system was starting to get in check. And that made us look harder at our GIS system. And we realized that was wrong. And so then we got our own GIS staff to go out there and start boots on the ground, GPSing everything, opening up everything and building our map. And as they built the map, it helped us find more areas that were troubled areas. And then we started fixing that, right? So here we are today, 2023, the plant is back within compliance at all levels, right? Now we're lingering that level for it needing to be moving towards design, but we're still under it, right? So we're still in compliance. We were in compliance for all of 2022, and we didn't have to build a $20 million plant, a $20 million plant that would have been funded by all of our customers that wasn't needed quite yet.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
You reverse engineered it all. So your head, you got. It sounds like you got a lot of plates in there. You got a lot in your belt. So let's talk skill sets. Like every operator, every mechanic has a tool belt, and they usually go in their tool belt and grab out XYZ tool to get XYZ problem solved. So let's talk your skill set, your tool belt. Let's say you're mentoring young Trino. The young Trino comes and asks you, like, hey, what skill set or what tool should I have in my tool belt to be successful at what you're doing today? What would you advise them to pick up?
Hey, so I guess there's a few things. One is seeking feedback, constant feedback, right? You have to be open to feedback. That's going to be key, right? And feedback isn't praise. It's feedback. It's how we could do things better, how you could do things better. One thing I share with our staff all the time is that you have to be a student of your craft, right? That means like you can't just take what you've learned and just keep doing the same thing. You have to use all the different sources. You have people, you have social media, LinkedIn, all kinds of different techniques are being displayed out there, even from your own show. You know, what other people are doing. You have to watch that type of stuff and then think, can we do that? How would that help us? And then what do we need to be able to do it? And then most importantly for me, you have to learn how to work with a team, because the ideas, the solutions that come from one person is never as good as that comes from a team, especially a diverse team. You get all the different ideas. Maybe today your idea is the one that worked. Maybe tomorrow is someone else's that was tweaked by everybody. And those solutions are always great. And when you get that collaboration, it leads to beautiful things. But you have to allow yourself to engage in that. And to me,
Sure.
those things are more important than trying to pick up this new tool, right? Or this new technology. You lock those other pieces down, the rest will start to come as a group.
That's a good point. Good point. All right. I need a story from you. I need a story of something that went wrong under your watch, what you did to fix it, and then what lessons you learned from it to apply to your future career.
Oh, golly. I'll tell you this. Everyone in my position has a war story. In every utility, there is one of these scenarios, and we all face many of those challenges. And that's our time to step up and show why we're also first responders in our group. That's when our times come. And I think one of the things that really caught us was Winter Storm Uri, which I believe happened in February of 2021. And it was a winter storm that happened in Texas. And during that time, the electric grid was struggling due to maintenance issues. Okay. And it was a really nasty thing that happened in Texas. But what ended up happening is the electric utility had to do rolling blackouts throughout most of Texas. Right. And then you had a freeze. Now, Texas is a warm place, right? We're not built for freezes. Okay. I live on an island in South Texas. We're built like to handle the summer, and we're built to like recover from a hurricane. We're not built to handle a real freeze, like snow on the beach freeze, right? And then, so when that time came, the electric utility, while they were doing rolling blackouts for everyone, they cut the power off to the island. So we were without power for multiple days. I think 3 days, two or 3 days. So that
wow, that's intense.
Yes. So then you try to prepare for this freeze coming in an area not built for it, but you can't prepare for houses not having power, right? Because the insides of the houses began to freeze. In my apartment, I have one of those little humidity bags you put in the closet, right? It froze. It literally froze inside the apartment. It was 16 degrees inside my apartment, right? And so what ended up happening is we had breaks inside houses, outside houses, throughout the streets, and we completely drained the island. No water. And that was a moment that was probably one of the scariest moments in my life. And really, we had to get going on a recovery. And so what we did know, though, going into that was like our SCADA system had some issues and had been down, that had been neglected and not brought back up to speed. there was portions of our distribution system that we didn't have visibility on, and we were functioning the way utility might have been functioning like 40 years ago or something. And so we were taking our time and getting all these things corrected. But after that freeze, we realized there is no time. And then, so that was a scary moment for me. So after that, we got really engaged with our system. We brought in pressure monitors from this group called Serenix, and then we ended up putting those on like our fire hydrants. We got our SCADA systems up to speed. We re-engineered the way we run our system from an operational perspective, and we brought the resiliency like really into the place that it needs to be. So then fast forward to this past Christmas, we had another freeze hit. So like a back-to-back freeze, not as bad as the Winter Storm Uri because we didn't lose power to the island, but we did freeze, right? And we were able to see everything, react to everything as it was happening, and we didn't lose any water. We didn't have any boil water notices. We did have breaks in the line, which is going to happen, but our customers, they had water the entire time. Our staff had to work through Christmas Eve and Christmas and the day after. That comes with the job.
Yeah, so you learned from the first instance and applied it to the second one.
Correct.
So now the third one will be smooth as butter, right?
I hope so.
Right. All right. Speaking of learning, I always like to get into how you get your information. Like you could show up every month, every day, every year, the same person. But I can tell you're the type of guy who wants to get better and better. So what intentionally do you do professionally and personally to keep acquiring knowledge and putting more information in your brain?
And so I try to get involved with just different organizations, for one, like the Underground Construction Technology Association or the Water Environmental Agency of Texas and American Water Works Association, the Public Works Association. I try to get involved in whatever I can. And I get connected not only like on all of their websites and media and whatnot, but I also try to, like, when I go to a conference, make connections with other peers, right? Because iron sharpens iron. And sometimes when you come across people that have already done something that you haven't done, or have already experienced something that you haven't experienced, by connecting with those people and having those peer networks, you're able to continue to get information, and you're able to grow off of their vision, which in this case, vision would be sharpening vision. And then on the side, I'm always like looking on LinkedIn and what other people are doing, or what people post on Facebook, or just little website things that pop up. And sometimes something simple catches my eye and I'll be like, oh, cool. And then I'll send it to everybody while I start looking at it.
I think I lost you there for a second. So you're going on LinkedIn, you're going on Facebook, you're looking for stuff, and then also associations, which is actually pretty cool. So let's say I ask your one of your children's best friends, or one of your children, and I say, hey, what does your father Trino do all day, every day? What would they get totally wrong in answering that question?
What would they get wrong? I think the thing they would get wrong is that I'm responsible for everything that's broken. Like that it's my fault. And it's funny too, because we were joking today about it. We host our own little leadership learning session where I'll have all my supervisors, superintendents, assistant directors, and we all meet, and then we'll go through different leadership topics that we plagiarized from other groups that we've learned, and we go through that. And one of the things that my son, for example, I always have him with me. I'll bring him to work with me at times, so he knows our business. And so he's one of our worst customers because he points out everything that's wrong. You go to a traffic light, it's in flash mode, you try to cross the street and you push the button across the street. If it doesn't beep, if it doesn't flash, if the numbers are wrong, he's right away critiquing it. And it's like, dude, you're not my boss. You're not the city manager. You're not the CEO. Be quiet. He's right, and we get it fixed. And I would think that a lot of his friends would feel the same way. Golly, this thing's broken. Tell your dad to go fix it.
That's what I always like to ask is, what's like the most notorious or the most frequent text message you get from family and friends around town? Is, hey man, they're not picking up my trash, or my water looks funny. What's coming on your cell phone?
Yeah, so for me, it's the traffic lights not being synced up. That's like nonstop. Don't get stuck at a
All right.
red light. I'm going to hear about it.
Gotcha. All right, let's say you're commissioned to put up a billboard, and this billboard is the most trafficked area of Galveston. What ask of your community in regards to public works would you put on this billboard?
No more wipies. You know that that is killing us. So we, like last night, we had a really bad rain event, and we're cleaning lines and dealing with things. And so during that scenario, you're dealing with both drainage and sanitary sewer. And what we've been noticing is we're cleaning while we're just pulling these big monster bundles of like rags intertwined with each other. And really what it is, we call it rags as a generic term, but it really is just wipes. It's wipes that yeah, yeah. And that's the other thing, right? It's flushable. And you're right, it is. It'll make it from your toilet bowl into the sewer. That part is true. After that, forget about it. And so I think that would probably be my billboard, a plea for no more wipes.
Gotcha. I got to ask the question, what's the difference between working on an island versus just a normal landlocked city? Is there a difference at all?
Oh, there's a massive difference. There are so many different challenges. We had a meeting yesterday with a different builder, and I don't know where his source came from or what he was citing, but he had mentioned that the city of Galveston was the third most difficult place to construct in the United States. And we asked like where that came from. And he mentioned some associations or some engineering deals, but I was not familiar with what he was talking about. But that comment really stuck because we feel that. And so when I moved over here previously to being over here, I worked in New Braunfels Utilities in New Braunfels, Texas, which is in between Austin and San Antonio. And so like there, that's your scenario where you're landlocked and you have like elevation and you have hills and valleys and whatnot, and you have strong ground. Some of it's rock, some of it's like good solid caliche. And so like when you're trying to construct or you're trying to maintain, you're working on solid ground, you're working in different environments that are non-corrosive, that are normal, right? When you're on an island, first off, we're surrounded by water. Like the only way on the island is by a bridge or a ferry, right? So we're completely surrounded by water, right? Then we don't have elevation, right? We're pretty flat and we're pretty low to the ground, right? So when you have high tides, when you have any kind of storm event, all the drainage has nowhere to go, right? All of that comes up, streets get flooded, that inundates your sewer system too, anywhere you have I and so on. So that becomes a problem. There's so much groundwater here that anytime you dig, we have to use these well points to dry the ground. So that way it's not just all caving in on us. We have to use these well point systems, and then you have to use your typical shoal and whatnot, but you can't even use it until you've dried the ground. So that adds a complication. All the contractors that work for us have to deal with that same thing, which makes things more expensive. And then and like everything's coming in from the outside. Our water's coming in from a pipe that's sourced in, our electric's coming in. The point of failure for any of that is high, right? And when it happens, now we're alone with no way to grab things. So then we have to figure out how to become resilient on our own with large amounts of storage, generators, battery backups, just different things to sustain during any kind of event. So that to me is what makes it harder working on an island than just your typical city or state on the mainland.
Sure. Thanks for asking that or answering that. All right, so let's say I'm coming to Galveston and I text you ahead of time and I'm like, hey, Trino, send me to the spot where I get the best burger in town. Where are you going to send me?
Okay. So it's not a traditional burger place, but it's called Coops, like Koops. And so what it is a little restaurant. It's a barbecue restaurant, but they're not serving you barbecue like by the plate. They will on the weekend, but they're not really serving you barbecue by the plate. They're making brisket and everything else that every barbecue place would make, but then they take it and then they break it all up and they make hamburgers out of it. They make sausages, or not sausages, sandwiches out of it. They'll make loaded mac and cheese and spaghetti with it. And so like basically you're eating all these good mood foods that is filled with some kind of smoked barbecue. And they'll do the burgers that way. They'll take the brisket and then they'll turn it into a burger when it's Yeah, it's just crazy. It's so bad for you, but it's so good.
I like it. I like it. All right. I always like to leave a space on the show for you to thank mentors that you had along your journey, and then also a word of inspiration and motivation to your director counterparts.
Okay. So in my growth, there's been a lot of different people that have weighed in and helped out here and there. And so there's a lot of people that deserve thanks, anywhere from like my wife to just other people, right? My family. But if we're talking just professionally, along the way, I've always been a hard charger. And there was this one executive director, and his name was Al Kaufman, is Al Kaufman, and he's retired now. But at the time, he was the chief operating officer at New Braunfels Utilities. And he really didn't like me. He really didn't like me because he described me as damn the torpedoes, full steam ahead. And then he felt like everything that I did for my own glory, not for the benefit of the city, of the utility. And when I kept charging ahead anyways, and I kept trying to create wins for our CEO and executive directors and whatnot. And so what I eventually began to realize is that like when I was applying to become a director level, I was getting shut down every time. And I didn't understand why. And when I would go solicit feedback, especially from the people that were not giving me the job, they'd say, "You're great. It just wasn't your time." But I was always getting declined and I wasn't getting the feedback I wanted. So one day I went to Al Kaufman and I said, "Hey, I solicited feedback." And the very first time he had me close the door and he just laid into me everything that he ever wanted to share, right? But I was ready for it. I wanted that. I didn't agree with it all, but I took it and I started working on something. And then months later, I went back to ask him for feedback again. And he gave me the exact same spiel, almost like if he had it written down. And I said, "Whoa, hey, you're telling me everything you've already told me. I took this one thing and I was trying to do it. Am I not doing it well? Do I need to change it?" And he said, "Oh, I didn't realize you actually took the feedback and were trying. I'll start watching from now on. Keep doing it." And so then he did. He kept watching and he started guiding me. And he literally changed my leadership style, my outlook. And then next thing you know, I finally hit the ranks I was trying to hit. And I don't think that I would have been able to without him coming into my life the way that he did. So he's like a major inspiration and will always be. And I still talk to him periodically now and then as friends, as a true friend. And then I guess if I wanted to share anything for all like my peers in the same area, you can affect change. You can make an impact. It just requires you to get involved with people, try different things. Don't be afraid to fail forward. That's what matters, right? Nothing's going to be perfect. But if you get out there and you work and you grow people, if you're patient, if you try, good things will happen. You'll make an impact. And we have an industry that really needs that impact.
Sure. Thanks for that. Trino, thanks for hopping on the show with us. Thanks for sharing your wealth of information and knowledge. To all the listeners out there, make sure you share this with somebody who you think needs to hear it. Trino, any final words before we get out here?
Have a great weekend.
All right. This has been the Public Works Podcast, and thanks for tuning in.